He thought he was just doing the right thing for a stranger, but when the door opened and her mother looked straight into his tired eyes and softly said, "Would he like to stay over?" his life changed forever. Before this story pulls you in completely, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more real, emotional stories like this. Your support helps keep true kindness tales alive. It was nearly midnight when Daniel pulled his old sedan to the side of the road, rain tapping gently against the windshield like quiet reminders of how lonely nights could feel. Daniel was a 39-year-old single dad, exhausted in a way that sleep never seemed to fix. His day had started before sunrise, packing lunches, braiding his daughter Lily's hair with clumsy fingers, rushing to work, then racing back home to help with homework and dinner. Tonight was supposed to be simple: pick up groceries after his late shift and go home. But life had other plans. Near the corner of a dimly lit street, he noticed a young woman sitting on the curb, head in her hands, swaying slightly. Cars passed without slowing. Daniel's first instinct was hesitation. He had a daughter waiting at home, responsibilities he couldn't risk. But then she looked up, her eyes glassy, frightened, and full of regret. She tried to stand and nearly collapsed. Daniel parked and stepped out, his heart pounding with uncertainty. She said her name was Emily, her words slurred, embarrassment written all over her face. She'd gone out with coworkers, drank too much, and her phone was dead. She didn't want trouble, just needed to get home. Daniel thought of Lily. He thought of how he'd hoped someone would help her if she ever needed it. He offered to drive Emily home, keeping his tone respectful and distant. She gave him the address, and the ride was quiet except for the hum of the engine and the soft sniffle she tried to hide. Emily apologized repeatedly, saying she felt stupid. Daniel told her everyone makes mistakes, and what matters is getting home safe. As they drove, Daniel remembered his late wife, how she believed kindness always came back around, even when it cost you something. The house Emily pointed to was modest, warm light the door, making sure she could stand. He planned to leave immediately, drop her off, ensure she was safe, and go back to his own quiet house. He rang the bell once. Footsteps approached. The door opened to reveal a woman in her early 50s, worry instantly melting into relief as she saw her daughter standing there alive and unharmed. Emily leaned slightly toward Daniel, and before he could step away, her mother looked directly at him and said something that froze him in place. Would he like to stay over? Daniel blinked, sure he'd misheard. The question wasn't flirtatious or strange, it was sincere, gentle, almost maternal. Emily's mother quickly clarified, her voice warm but firm. She explained it was late, raining, and Daniel looked exhausted. She had tea on the stove, a guest room ready, and a belief that good people shouldn't be sent back into the night empty-handed. Daniel tried to politely decline. He mentioned his daughter, his responsibilities, the groceries waiting in his car. But something in the woman's eyes, gratitude mixed with trust, made it hard to walk away. Emily's mother introduced herself as Sarah. She took Emily inside, settling her on the couch, then returned to the door and said quietly, "I raised my daughter to know when someone has shown her kindness. Tonight, you did." Daniel hesitated, then agreed to stay just long enough for tea. Inside, the house felt lived in and warm, filled with family photos and soft lighting. The tension he carried all day slowly loosened. Sarah poured tea and listened as Daniel shared small pieces of his life, how he became a single father 3 years ago, how every decision he made now was filtered through what was best for Lily. Sarah listened without interruption, without pity. She spoke of her own life, of raising Emily alone after her husband passed, of how fear never truly leaves a parent's heart. That night, Daniel slept in the guest room, fully clothed, his car safely parked outside. In the morning, he woke to the smell of breakfast and the sound of quiet laughter. Emily, now sober and deeply embarrassed, apologized again, tears in her eyes. Daniel smiled and told her she owed him nothing, just to pay it forward someday. Sarah packed him a small bag of food for Lily, insisting. As Daniel left, Sarah stopped him at the door and said, "You didn't just bring my daughter home. You reminded me that kindness still exists." Weeks passed, then months. Daniel didn't expect to see them again, but life has a way of reconnecting kind souls. He ran into Sarah at a school fundraiser, she volunteered there. Lily and Emily met, forming an easy bond. Conversations turned into coffee, coffee into dinners. Slowly, gently, trust grew, not out of desperation, but out of shared values and quiet understanding. Daniel never rushed it. He'd learned that the best things in life arrive when you're not looking for them. And every time he tucked Lily into bed, he remembered that rainy night, realizing that choosing kindness over fear had changed more than just one evening. It had opened a door he never knew existed. A year later, Daniel stood in the same doorway where everything began, but this time, the moment felt entirely different. Lily stood beside him, holding a small bouquet of flowers, smiling nervously. Emily stood across the room, laughing softly as Sarah wiped tears from her eyes. Life hadn't become perfect. There were still challenges, still moments of doubt, but it had become fuller. The house that once welcomed a stranger now felt like home. Daniel reflected on how close he'd come to driving past that night, choosing safety over compassion. He understood now that kindness doesn't always demand grand gestures, sometimes it just asks you to stop, to care, to stay a little longer. Emily had grown from that night too, becoming more mindful, more grateful, volunteering with her mother to help others get home safely. Lily often asked Daniel why he stopped the car that night. He told her the truth. Because someone needed help, and because he hoped the world would do the same for her someday. The lesson stayed with her. On quiet evenings, Daniel and Sarah would sit on the porch, sharing tea, watching the sky change colors, speaking of the past without letting it define them. Their relationship wasn't built on drama or instant attraction, but on respect born from one simple act of decency. Daniel realized that love sometimes begins not with sparks, but with safety, with the feeling that you are seen and trusted. As the years moved forward, that night became a story they told often, not because it was dramatic, but because it reminded them how fragile and powerful moments can be. One decision, one pause, one open door can reshape entire lives. And as Daniel watched Lily grow, surrounded by people who cared deeply for her, he knew he would never regret stopping that car. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more real stories of compassion and unexpected connections. Your support means more than you know. This has been True Kindness Tales, where one act of kindness can change everything.